Way less challenging and animalic than you think it is. Actually, it's super classy and sophisticated. Hello, welcome back to Sell Only Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're taking fragrances, and this is a practical review of Zoologist Civet. These reviews are for fragrances that have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances, but I don't really like to go into details about notes in a course, as I don't think that they help the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. Out there in the market, there are perfumes that please and there are perfumes that provoke. Civet, for me, fits right into that beautiful middle ground. It's so beautiful, it's so alluring, it's so fascinating. This fragrance to me was an instant love as soon as I smelled it. I sampled it for the first time from an official Zoologist sample, and again, it was love at first sniff. Everything just caught my attention immediately. It felt spicy, it felt mysterious, it felt regal and sophisticated. Actually, I was kind of disappointed of the lack of Animalics. I didn't really find this Animalic at all, especially initially. But later down the road, with a lot more sheeper experience on my shoulder, I started to fully appreciate the fine nuances of this furry animal. This is so beautiful. It's vintage, it's sophisticated, it's classy. Actually, gun to my head, this is probably one of the best Zoologist fragrances out there. This is not about animalics whatsoever. This is about contrast between refinement and instinct. It's about contrast between skin and silk. And look, I totally get it. The name of the perfume alone is a little bit fear-inducing. If you mention Civet to any perfume lover, they will immediately tag it to a pissy component, which really recalls vintage. It recalls old-fashioned, it recalls stuffy. But Zoologist is such a fun brand, such a modern brand, that really manages to combine vintage and modern features. It really brings something like this alive into the modern age. This one here, it has a classic vibe, it has a classic feeling, but it's still very, very contemporary. It feels like an old school jazz club that is playing modern avant-garde music. Speaking of Zoologist, I absolutely love the brand. You might know this by now. It's one of my favorite brands of all time. I really applaud Victor Wong for bringing to light such a beautiful, fun, modern experience. The Zoologist fragrances basically depict animals in their best way possible. They assign a character and a personality to these very, very fun creatures. Sometimes it's about the animal, sometimes it's about the environment. In the case of Civet, I think it's about the actual creature, but it's more about the cartoon personality that the creature embodies. Again, I'm getting a lot of jazz club. I feel that the Civet itself, the animal, here is portrayed as this weird old school gentleman, which is maybe a jazz musician. Maybe he's a little bit unpredictable. Maybe he is suave. I really, really like the character. The image on the bottles is absolutely amazing. And again, this Civet here is one of the best perfumes from the brand. I love the approach of Zoologist. I love how Victor Wong basically gives a loose brief to the perfumer and completely lets them do their thing. They interpret these animals and assign them such a strong personality. And I'll be repeating myself through the review, but I truly think that Civet is actually one of the best starting points for the brand. This really combines everything that is great about Zoologist. It combines a modern approach, a classic timeless feel, high quality ingredients, a very unique smell. This is everything that Zoologist is meant to represent and even more. But back to the scent, back to Civet. Before, I briefly mentioned Chypre fragrances, and indeed, Civet is kind of built like a Chypre fragrance. Chypre is a genre of perfumery that is kind of vintage. It's very, very classic in construction. It basically combines top notes such as aromatics, such as citruses. It goes floral in the mid, and then in the base, it usually goes leathery or ambery or something a little bit more warm. They can come across as a little bit classic, a little bit vintage, maybe even a little bit stuffy. Civet, though, really combines this classic construction with modern high quality ingredients. In my opinion, it's actually very, very wearable. I actually get a good cola vibe from this. It's absolutely beautiful. There's a ton of ingredients in here. There's a ton of notes to really discover. It's so complex, but it's not overwhelming. Come to think about it, this is a much more fun, likable version of something like Roja's Diaghilev, which is an absolute masterpiece of a fragrance. But we're going to talk about the scent profile and wear experience after we cover the presentation. When it comes to presentation, Zoologist fragrances are basically in a league of their own. They have so much character and personality. The portrait in front of the fragrance is basically the star of the show. And before anyone says anything, yes, this one here is the older bottle design. I only have older bottles. I haven't purchased one of the new ones yet because I kind of vowed that my collection would end with the older bottles. Now, I might break that vow just because some of the new fragrances that have been coming out recently are absolutely amazing. At least they seem amazing on paper. A subscriber of mine actually is sending sending me some samples at the time that I'm recording this video, specifically Portuguese Manowar and Orchid Mantis. Those two sound absolutely amazing. So yeah, I might have to break my rule eventually. These new fragrances are super, super cool. I'm not necessarily sure how I'll be fitting them into my collection. Maybe they'll just be sitting on a separate shelf for now until I gather a little bit more. Anyway, this one here is the old bottle. I really, really like the old bottle. It has a definite charm about it, which the new ones do not really have. And by the way, I seem to understand that the shift between the old bottle and the new design is mainly due to labeling. Basically, it became unsustainable to manually apply labels on these old bottles, so they decided to go for a more cylindrical thing that could fit through a machine and just auto apply. Nonetheless, this one here is old. I love it. It's classic. This is actually an old vintage batch of this. I've got this secondhand on my local marketplace, and I think this one here actually is from 2018. And by the way, I didn't mention it, this fragrance came out in 2016. This bottle is absolutely amazing. I really like it. As I said before, it looks vintage. It almost looks like a prop. I really like how these stand on the shelf all together with their little portraits. Even the liquid color is absolutely amazing, and it kind of looks like whiskey, and it's recalling the scent profile a lot. Anyway, let's dive in a little bit more into the presentation, starting off from the cap. The cap for Zoologist bottles is absolutely beautiful. It feels weighty, it feels solid, it's very, very high quality. I wouldn't necessarily grab the bottle from the atomizer, especially hastily from the shelf, but right now it is kind of holding. Again, the friction is doing its job. The cap itself, as I said before, it's metal, it's heavy, it's solid, very, very well made. On the top, you have an engraving. And around the cap, you have this pleather thing, which actually, in my opinion, kind of detracts from the quality. Zoologists prize themselves to be vegan friendly. Everything is vegan, everything is massively sustainable, which is, again, praiseworthy. But the pleather on here just feels kind of cheap. At this point, I'd rather have gone for a full metal cap like the newer bottles, actually. Actually, I'm hearing that one of the redeeming qualities of the new bottle design is that the cap is magnetic. So that is an improvement, that is a refinement. Anyway, continuing the presentation down to the bottle, I really, really like the bottle design. It's angular, it's sharp, it's very unique looking, it's almost iconic. But the thing that makes it so iconic is the portrait. The portraits on these bottles are absolutely amazing. The person that drew all the portraits is the same, and I really applaud her work because they're so characterful. I have to say that without the animals, I would probably not even be that interested in this brand. The animals, the way they're rendered, is a huge selling point for the brand. And also, especially when you look at the boxes, there you have a massive print of the animals. They're so cool. Again, to me, it really adds a lot of charm to the brand. Some may say that this is trivial, given the fact that the juice is not really impacted by the animal portrait, but I kind of disagree. I feel that the product as a whole just comes together, and I feel that the juice is kind of tied to the animal is tied to the juice. Everything really works together as a whole. So yes, the product is amazing. I love the presentation. It does feel high quality, although the glass sometimes on some batches can come across as a little bit rugged. It has this weird texture. This one here, again, is an older bottle, and this is actually surprisingly transparent. I forgot to mention the atomizer. Usually on Zoologist, the atomizers are absolutely beautiful, especially on the newer batches. This one here is a vintage, and the atomizer is not pressurized. Actually, come to think about it, I have a few vintage Zoologists in my collection. I have this one here, I have Nightingale, I have Moth, and I have Chameleon. All of these bottles do not come with a pressurized atomizer. It's okay, it's not the end of the world. I do prefer the pressurized atomizer of the newer batches, but this one here works just fine. Again, not the best, not the worst, it's okay. And it does feel high quality. The materials do feel high quality. Overall, in my opinion, the presentation is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. I love the portraits. In my opinion, they add a lot of character and personality to the fragrance. They really aid the juice. They really aid the ability to really discern and understand this juice. I might be a little bit gushing over this brand. I might be a little bit biased, but it is one of my favorite brands, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's move on to the price and value for money. These fragrances are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. They're actually quite expensive, and recently they got even more expensive. Now these all retail for over 200 bucks a pop. As I just said, there was a recent price increase. I think it was at 10% across the board, which makes these fragrances kind of expensive, especially considering that these old bottles and even the new ones only carry 60 ml. That being said, I kind of think that Zoologist is actually worth the retail price. These are absolutely amazing. They smell very, very unique. They smell high quality. And as I said before, Victor Wong, in my opinion, is a breath of fresh a share in this community. He really represents a force for good in the fragrance industry. His products are creative, they're unique, they're refined, nothing is rushed. He really cares about this stuff, and it really shows, and I do appreciate Zoologist for this, and I really applaud the brand as a whole. In my opinion, they really deserve respect, they deserve support, at least mine, and I will be supporting them even in the future. But now it's time to talk about the scent profile we're experienced for Zoologist Civet. What does this actually smell like? Well, as I said before, this comes across as slightly vintage. This is built on a sheetrock construction after all, but it also has a lot of modern touches. As I mentioned before, I just get this image of this beautiful old school jazz club, dim lights, leather sofas, and wood paneling. Actually, to be a little bit more specific, I get an image of this jazz player. He's a little bit of an old-timey person. He has a little bit of a patina, but there's still a sparkle in his eye. He has a distinct suaveness. He has a lot of expertise, and he just looks at you in a more unpredictable manner. I keep saying unpredictable because this scent is kind of unpredictable. It just catches you off guard. It's something, then it's something else. It changes a lot in pure Chypre fashion. To be a little bit more specific, to describe the scent a little bit more specifically in the opening, every time I spray this on, I immediately get a cola vibe, which is not too dissimilar to something like Roja's Enigma or Creation E. That scent there and this have a lot in common, to be completely honest. They really develop in a similar way. The opening of this is characterized by citruses and spices, and it's precisely the combination of these two factors which is responsible for this Coca-Cola accord. It's very, very particular. But once you smell the cola, you will not be able to unsmell it. I love the opening of this. And again, it's similar to something like Roja's Enigma. Those two scents have a similar classiness to them. This one here just adds a little bit more fun factor. Immediately following this beautiful, effervescent, bubbly opening, which is also, by the way, responsible for the jazz club image, because I am picturing this lacquered countertop with this glass of soda or cocktail there, which is brown in color and fizzing. Anyway, after that beautiful opening, you start getting into the heart of the fragrance, which is dominated by, I think, florals. Again, it's very, very difficult to describe. There's a ton of notes in here, especially if you look at the note breakdown on something like Perfumum or Fragrantica, you might be slightly overwhelmed. Again, in a similar way to Roja fragrances, you can't really expect to be smelling or to be detecting every single note. Actually, all of these florals in the mid just come across as a general floral accord. It has a lot of density, it has a lot of details, it has a lot of layers, but it just gives the fragrance a ton of body. It gives it a ton of texture. Actually, all of these florals together really give the fragrance this definite velvetiness. It has a little bit of a musty, old school feeling. It can come across as a little bit stuffy. I'm thinking velvet. I'm thinking about some sort of an old school heavy velvet curtain. That's also sweet. I'm getting most of the stuffy, floral, furry vibes from the mid because the top is very effervescent and light, and the base is actually very resinous with a distinct animalic touch. The base is actually where the civet lies, and it's really dormant in there until the dry down. As the scent dries down, this base starts emerging, it starts bubbling up. It has this warmth, which is very, very particular. It almost smells like cat breath. Again, animal breath is something that I reference all the time, but it's not stinky at all. It's just very, very comforting. And if you have a cat or a dog, no matter how much you love your pets, it's pretty objective that the smell of their breath, especially after a meal, is not the best smell in the world. But fear not, Civet is very subtle about it. It mostly carries the warmth. It has a specific texture about it. It's actually very difficult to describe. I think that it comes across as silky, a little bit damp. It has this radiancy to it. This one here in the dry down, as the scent really dries, as the scent progresses, it really becomes more and more apparent. I'll be talking about two fragrances later in my options that really features this animal breath component in a much more prominent way. Civet is pretty subtle about it, but if you start digging around the scent profile looking for the animalic component, it will show its face. That being said, in my opinion, it just adds the scent profile. It adds this feeling of human skin, which is so beautiful, so mysterious. It has a definite sexy component, which is so underrated. Actually, animalic components were originally added in fragrances because of this, because they made the fragrances more relatable, more human, more likable overall, and Civet accomplishes exactly that. It's a very intimate fragrance, especially if you go close to the person wearing it. This is borderline sexy. I think that it's incredibly well done. It's a masterpiece in perfumery, and it actually has beautiful wear transition and beautiful dynamic range. Speaking of, this fragrance transitions a lot. It transitions in a subtle manner because it's not obvious. It doesn't really have stages, but it mutates as the scent progresses, as the scent dries down. It starts off with this definite cola vibe, and it ends up in this resinous, ambery, myrrh-like component in the base. It basically goes through the stages of the fragrance construction, top to bottom. It's absolutely beautiful. And the dynamic range is maintained throughout the wear experience somehow. Again, it just comes across as really, really rich. So it's kind of surprising that it has top notes, but it does have a definite sparkle. Again, even in the dry down, it has something about it which is edgy. Maybe it's the animalic components themselves that kind of take the place of the citruses, lifting the fragrance up, preventing it from being too stuffy, too cloying. This is a sweet fragrance, but it's not an obviously sweet fragrance. This, again, is sweet in a chypre way. It's absolutely gorgeous. But now it's time to talk about some practicalities for Zoologist Civet, starting as per usual from the performance department. Longevity on this is really, really good. I get at least 8 hours of full detectable wear. This is just so beautiful to put on. It wears extremely well. It's so smooth, so linear. It's just a masterpiece in wear experience. It's a masterpiece in perfume making. Again, I feel that the chypre construction is just so reliable, and that is actually one of the reasons why it's been so overused in perfumery over the ages. Civet is absolutely gorgeous. As I said before, it's very, very detectable throughout its wear experience, but especially as you spray it on, it's very loud. I wouldn't say it's necessarily room filling, but it has a really, really strong presence. It smells regal, it smells classy, it smells sophisticated. It's also kind of fun because, again, it has that cola vibe, which is not necessarily youthful, but it has this sparkle to it. Again, I'm being reminded of this image of this old jazz musician looking at you and showcasing his very specific sparkle in his gaze, kind of like looking at a child through the eyes of maturity. This is absolutely beautiful. It wears beautifully. It's so linear, so predictable. There's no jarringness. It's very, very smooth, so insanely well made. No wonder this one here actually won fragrance awards throughout its years. Beautiful stuff. Highly, highly recommended. Now, when it comes to use cases and actual versatility, I would say that this is fairly versatile, but you really have to embrace the vintage feel of the fragrance. I've worn this in pretty much every situation. I've worn this in the day, at night, at work, in my leisure time, at parties in the evening, and it performed like a champ every time. It doesn't give me the same awkward feeling of wearing something like Diaghilev or Goldman by Amouage in the office. At least for me, those two scents just feel out of place. It's a little bit awkward and really unnecessary. Also, they're super potent. Speaking of, this one here just comes across as a lot more intimate sillage-wise. It's much less invasive. This is just beautiful. It's sophisticated, and it's really not stinky at all, especially during the colder months. Now, as the temperature warms up, this might come across as a little bit sticky. It might come across as a little bit stuffy and old school, and the animalic component just starts pushing off your skin. So yeah, this is not really ideal for high activity situations like the gym. I have worn this at the gym, not that great. I feel that it's a waste. It's just not really conducive to that sort of activity. No one frowned, no one batted an eye, no one gave me bad looks, but I just feel that it's really inappropriate. Overall, despite thinking that the scent is pretty versatile, I do still think that it really shines in the evening, especially in a more elegant setting, possibly when you're dressed up. When all these things align, this scent really pulls its weight. It really, really showcases a lot of sophistication, a lot of classiness. It really has a lot of confidence. This scent manifests confidence. It's absolutely beautiful, and I love wearing it. I really can't fault the wear experience in any way. In my opinion, it's a masterpiece. And look at the dent that I have in here. It's really, really amazing. Demographics wise, this is absolutely beautiful and incredibly unisex. It is, after all, built upon a chypre construction, and chypres were originally targeting women. They were meant for women. Now everyone wears everything, which I fully applaud. So yeah, this one here can be worn by pretty much everyone on the street. Now, when it comes to age, I do feel that you need a little bit more experience. This can come across as a little bit vintage and stuffy. If you're a young person and you want to get into zoologists, I still kind of recommend this, but you need to know what this fragrance is. I think that the best way to imagine or to predict the scent profile is to reference Roche's Enigma or Creation E. I feel that these two scents are actually pretty similar in construction, so it's safe to say that if you like that one, or if you like Roche's in general, you'll probably like this. This is just more modern, it's more fun, it's just more lively. So yeah, Roche fans, Zoologist Civet is the scent for you. When I think about imagery and narration, and when I feel like praising something, the Zoologist fragrances always come to mind. But this one here is a little bit different. This one here comes across as distinctly perfumey. It's very classical in construction. It doesn't really evoke any specific image. Again, I get that jazz club, but it's not necessarily tied to the animal. It's not tied to the animal's environment. The animal itself is dressed in a very suave manner, but I might be reading through the lines. Again, I'm not necessarily picturing the animal. This is, again, a little bit weird for Zoologist fragrances, but it's a good thing. This is extremely wearable. It doesn't have that weird environmental effect that other Zoologist fragrances have. This is classical. It can be worn on the daily. It can be worn without distraction. It is very potent. It's very engaging, but you can easily push it into the background for a great daily scent. Okay, now for some options for the fragrance I'm currently reviewing. In the case of Zoologist Civet, I just wanted to go for nice resinous scents with a little bit of an animalic touch. I have 3 options to showcase as per usual, and they're increasingly animalic. The first one is fairly tame, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's actually what inspired this review. This one here is Ambra Aurea by Profumum Roma. You know the drill. Profumum Roma is one of my favorite brands ever. This fragrance is a reference in the genre of amber fragrances. It basically makes everything else in my collection, which is amber related, redundant. This is the best of the bunch, and it feels extremely high quality. Now, how is this similar to something like Zoologist Civet, you might ask? Well, it comes down to the deep dry down of Civet. It's actually very, very resinous. It's ambery. It's very round and warm. And this one here has a similar feel to it. It might be a little bit sweeter. It might be more amber forward, but it has this distinct texture, which is kind of animalic, and it's probably due to the ambergris in here. The amber notes in here come across as salty, a little bit savory. They have this distinct edginess. This is not Grand Soir by any stretch of the imagination. It's absolutely beautiful. It has so many layers. It has so much detail to uncover. Everywhere I get more stuff. Again, I've been talking about this nonstop pretty much since I got it because it's that good. I highly, highly recommend Ambra Aurea, and in general the brand of Profumum Roma. They're so different from pretty much everything else on the market. They just do their own thing in their own way, and for that alone, I really respect the brand. I really respect the house. I like a house with confidence. I like a house that is decisive. All of the fragrances are incredibly decisive. These are not for everyone. They come across as a little bit one note, but they have a lot of complexity. If you like stuff like Les Indemodables, if you like stuff like Peri Montecarlo, Profumum Roma fragrances, in my opinion, are like the best rendition of that concept, of that formula. Again, Les Indemodables is absolutely amazing, but Profumum Roma just feels more special. It's Italian, has Italian quirks. The fragrances are very, very oily. They last a ton of time, but really, they're truly, truly amazing. Ambra Aurea, top 3 Profumum Romas ever. Yeah, I've tested a lot, and this one here really stands out. It's beautiful, it's resinous, it's warm, it's incredibly long lasting. I really can't say enough good things. You have to try this for yourself. It's absolutely glorious. Ramping up the animalic component just a little bit, let's head into option number 2. I already recently talked about this. This is by Carner Barcelona, and it's Felino. This is basically a soft chypre. This kind of reminds me of Musc Ravageur, but it's much more warm, it's much more resinous, and the animalic component is definitely ramped up. Before I was talking about the animal breath component, and this fragrance definitely came to mind. It has this damp warmness, it has this feline attitude, it feels very, very feral. It's beautiful, it's mysterious, but it still retains a lot of wearability. I'm not really sure how they pull this off, but this is exciting. It's really, really exciting stuff. It feels like feline fur. It feels like you're wearing some sort of a dirty old fur coat, but that still retains a ton of elegance. It's still an eye catcher and a nose catcher. Again, it's beautiful, it's elegant, it's still a little bit edgy. This, in my opinion, is the best current rendition of something like Musc Ravageur or Bengal Rouge. In my opinion, it's better than both of those. If you like animalics, it does have a little bit of that funky component, and if you don't like that musky human feel, this fragrance is really not for you, but I really, really like it. It's not necessarily vanillic forward, it's more musk and amber. Musk, amber, and resins. It's kind of like a chypre, but it's missing the top notes. Very interesting. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's super intriguing. The brand of Carner Barcelona really surprised me. I have Felino and Dragon, 2 incredible fragrances with a lot of edginess, a lot of personality. Again, I was not expecting this whatsoever. This is very, very exciting, and I'll be wearing a ton of it in the following colder month. Really cool. I really do not suggest sleeping on the underrated house of Carner Barcelona. If this concept sounds appealing, If you like animalic scents with a definite fur component, you have to give this a try, get a sample of this. I'm betting that it will be worth your time. Last but not least, let's ramp up the animalics once more. Let's go into full animalic mode. This one is one of my recent acquisitions, or relatively recent. This is from Maksim perfume. This is Bestia Sacra. I've already talked about this fragrance in a recent fragrance updates. This smells very animalic. This has a definite muskiness. This is very, very funky. Bestia Sacra, as the name implies, sacred beast, is almost a representation of this weird pagan ritual in the forest, like trying to summon this deer or some sort of a big herbivore, something like a moose, something with a lot of smell, something with a lot of fur that smells like musk, that smells like animal. This is very, very animalic. It has the most of the animal breath component out of all the perfumes I have. It's very damp. It has this damp fur feeling. Again, the way I'm describing it sounds absolutely terrible, but it's really, really beautiful. There's also a little bit of a barnyardy, oody component in here, adding to this animalistic presentation. The forest is not necessarily apparent. It just feels very, very dark. It feels like there's a campfire in the forest or a campfire in a field, and you're picking up on this smell in the air, almost like this mystical animal is sort of approaching. It's eerie, it's beautiful, it's comforting, it's very mysterious, and my God, the House of Maksim really, really surprised me. It's been one of the best discoveries recently. I got this and I got L'Oud Marine because I was inspired by my buddy Curtis Knows. He has amazing reviews on both of them. He keeps on featuring the House of Maksim, and by the way, Maksim is the son of Bortnikov. It's Maksim Bortnikov, so there's a lot of commonality in there. Realistic, natural materials, long-lasting fragrances, which are super unique. They have a ton of personality, a ton of narration. And again, I got these two also because they were the ones that on the website featured this scent journey thing, where there's music, where there's text, everything is really aiding the narration, and I really love that factor. Maksim Bestia Sacra, highly recommended, but you need to be into animalic fragrances with a definite funk factor. This is definitely not for everyone. It's not for the office. This is absolutely beautiful. It's musky, it's musty, it's very animalic, it's almost feral. I love it and I love wearing it, and I'll be definitely putting it in a lot of wears, especially in my lonely time in the evening. This really triggers my Zen state. It really brings me almost into meditation. It's so comforting, it's so unique, it has a lot of personality. Check out Maksim perfumes. They're not the cheapest on the market, but in my opinion, they are worth it. They're very, very unique. And if you like artisanal perfumes, if you like Bortnikov, this is pretty much a no-brainer in my opinion. But back to Zoologist Civet for my final overview and recommendation. Do I recommend this scent? Do I like it? What question? I love this scent and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Zoologist fragrances in general. This one here, as I said before, as I said multiple times, in my opinion, it's one of the best entries to the brand just because it shows the high quality of Zoologist. Some of the fragrances from the brand can come across as kind of weird and just almost depicting an environment or an animal to the point where you don't want to necessarily smell like that all the time. Civet really combines creativity, it combines uniqueness, it combines high quality, and surprisingly, it combines a lot of wearability. I feel that this, maybe due to the name of the fragrance, is kind of misunderstood and people tend to write it off as stinky. But this is actually so much more. It's very, very beautiful. It's sophisticated and classy. And hey, if you like Roja Enigma, as I said multiple times, this one here is arguably the better version. And yeah, dare I say it, it is the better version of Enigma. I feel that it's more linear, it lasts longer, it's just more refined, and it's actually cheaper. So yeah, if you're comparing it to Roja, this one here almost feels like a bargain. And also you get the unique fun factor of Zoologist, you get the amazing portrait, you get to support a brand which really stands for perfumery, which really stands for innovation and creativity. Again, I'm a huge fan of Zoologist, it's one of my favorite brands ever. Civet is one of the most amazing fragrances from the brand. In my opinion, if you have to sample just 5, this one here has to be in those 5. It's just that good. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. It's never taken for granted. Many more fun reviews, many more fun videos on the horizon. I'm very, very excited. See you in the next one, and cheers.